Hi, this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. It's Wednesday, July 31st, 2019. And I know that we regulate a lot of stuff. And I say we, but I mean they regulate a lot of stuff. The rich regulate everything. They regulate everything through laws. They decide whether we can grow and smoke marijuana or drink tea or have cocaine-based drinks and all this stuff, right? And it's all based on their economics. When you hear somebody say something like, the corporation only thinks about money. Okay, well, that's not really true, right? Because sometimes they actually do things for something other than profit. But that's not really my point. My point is that well, let's get to my main point. And that's that people are allowed, just because of privilege, because of white privilege, okay, to make money doing anything they want. And this segment is about this.
Inside this ordinary-looking building in Colorado, a company called Conduent builds recording devices with extraordinary capabilities.
Each one of these drive modules can hold up to 80 terabytes of data.
These storage systems record data at high speeds and in large quantities, benefiting a range of customers, including astronomers.
The quantities of data that the radio astronomy community gather are...
Okay, right here I've got to say that I've been programming databases and stuff since the 80s, okay? And I can tell you that there's not much that would use 10 terabytes of data. And if it did use 10 terabytes of data, then why? What are you trying to figure out? What are you trying to load 10 terabytes worth of data into a computer program? Why are you processing it? And what are you doing when you process it? Because here's the thing about processing data, okay? When you process data, it's a human being writing a formula or an equation, a program to process the data. So you're taking, if it's a well done project, then you're taking good data and you're making a human image of it. Okay? You see what I'm saying? And in this case, I don't know why or how they even produced how much data they produced and why and what it's supposed to do. I'm assuming let's let them talk a little bit so that you can understand what they did, because I'm assuming that these are radio telescopes, so they're picking up radio waves. I don't know if they're sifting through the data for the radio waves, but invariably if you do, they're going to produce the image that you want them to produce. If you tell it you want to exclude so much data. Anyway, my main point here is about this. This isn't the subject of the whole. The subject of this is about generally speaking, about how the rich pick out people and funnel money to them, right? So I did a segment not long ago about how the rich punish people they don't like their opinions, right? So people who stand up to the system, what have you, how they punish them, right? And how they reward others. And I'm thinking this is how one way that they reward people. I mean, anybody can hook 80 terabytes of hard drive. I mean, you can buy 10 terabyte drives right now if you want to take 8 of them and plug them into a computer. What's the point? It seems to me it's just like, so that guys like this, you notice how they all look alike? They all look alike. But so guys like this who own companies can make money. See what I'm saying? I'm saying that they're trying to figure out ways without getting caught, right? To reward their own people and punish the rest. And then after you talk about this guy and his computer company and the millions of dollars being thrown at white guys like this because they're white guys and because they don't rock the boat, you have to wonder about the overall project, which is to kind of map a black hole. What the fuck, man? What the fuck do we need to know? You know, they're trying to prove there's black holes out there? Eventually we'll do that, just through whatever, but why? What's the point? Who's gonna benefit? Who's gonna suffer from not knowing whether or not they're or not proving? I mean, so proving and knowing is the same thing, right? Who's gonna benefit? Who's gonna suffer? Nobody. Nobody. It's just a question of, you know, it's that same curiosity that killed the cat. The curiosity that Adam and Eve, or maybe Eve, I guess, and then she tricked Adam into going for the knowledge, right? The tree of knowledge. It's that same kind of curiosity. Do we really need to spend this kind of money on it? I mean, couldn't these people be building housing for the poor or renovating housing that we have? See, what I'm talking about is we need to do things scientifically. These people call themselves scientists, but they're not looking at their own activities in terms of scientifically. They're not saying to themselves, and nobody else is saying to themselves, well, or to them, you know, we don't need to spend all this money on you guys trying to figure out, and what's the result?
Astronomical, so to speak.
Now, the small manufacturer Phil Brunel co-founded more than 2 decades ago is a part of history.
We are delighted to be able to report to you today that we have seen
that we are lily white. Look at us. Oh, wait a minute. We did hire a black man so that we could photo shoot him, right? So that we could do a photo op.
what we thought was unseeable. We have seen and taken a picture of a...
Okay. How much money was spent so that you guys could come up with a computer-generated image based on data from multiple radio telescopes? And that's all it is. At any time, they could have taken the data from these radio telescopes. And I'm not saying we shouldn't have radio telescopes. I'm not saying that we shouldn't, because radio telescopes, if you ever watch the movie Contact, they're kind of scouring the universe for our known universe. As a matter of fact, they I think that pretty much you would find out that they produce the best version model for us of the known universe. They go out farther, they see things that you can't see with a light telescope, and so I don't really have a problem with that. I'm not saying, okay, let's not do that anymore. I'm just saying, how much money are we spending on them? How much money are, I'm sorry, but I just don't see spending, how much money did we spend to get this picture? Okay? And what is it really a picture of? You know, a donut? I think that they laid a donut down on the desk, shined a orange light at it, and in the dark, and got a picture of this donut sitting on a desk, and they've called it a black hole. Okay, so I don't know. Maybe they can do something with all this, but what I'm trying to say is I think a minimal amount of money should be spent on developing, I guess what you'd call radio telepsy or something like that. I don't know what you call it. My concern is, and it's a legitimate concern, is that white people get to have all kinds of jobs like astronomy and astrology, science, and they're high paid. And so the money gets funneled to the white people that way. And the problem with that is that if you look at the other end of it, brown and black people, and more and more white people like me who stand up to the system, are cut off from funding for anything. I mean, you look at me. Somebody could funnel me money for my music, and I could work in music. People could funnel me money, the establishment could funnel me money for my journalism, for what I'm doing every day. I do it here. But I have to do it for free, and why? Why? And you know what? At this point, I think I would do it for free anyway, just so that I wouldn't be taking money from the establishment. Because at this point, it's just like I turned down my inheritance because it was just blood money. It was, so at this point I think I would, I take that back. I would absolutely not take money from the establishment for my journalism, for my music, for anything that I love, because it would poison that. I quickly found out that doing something you love as a job, a J-O-B job, ruins it. I love computer programming. I tried to do it for other people, for the establishment, working within the establishment, and it very quickly became a job. I didn't love what I was doing anymore. I just was doing it because I was getting a paycheck, or because I don't know, but it wasn't satisfying me in any way. You know, when you want to share with your community, that's being ruined. It's being ruined. People, because of the middleman, right? I mean, isn't that really what it comes down to? Isn't the us every day getting up, going out there and trying to contribute to our community? Isn't the establishment jumping into the middle of it and saying we want to cut? Isn't that what ruins everything for everybody? I mean, tell me if I'm wrong. You can comment on this YouTube video, or you can comment in my Facebook group. But it seems to me like what should be a perfectly normal thing, getting up and jumping into a system that should be, and it isn't, but it should be designed so that we can work together and specialize. I'm an economist. I'm a trained economist, so I understand all this stuff. It should be so that we get up every morning and all the people around us, we're all going to work together. You know, the cops are going to make sure that we're safe in some ways, and the EPA is going to make sure our air is breathable and our water is drinkable, or that we have drinking water and we have water for cleaning, and etc., 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 right? But the rich somehow have jumped into the middle of that, and they've ruined it all, right? Just because you're black or brown, you don't get clean water, you know. Or just because you're a white guy like me and you're noticing these things and complaining about them, right? I mean, I was thrown in jail because I complained. That's all it was. I didn't threaten to blow anybody up or shoot anybody. What I said was that they're making people so mad that sooner or later somebody's going to want to blow one of them up or shoot somebody. As it turned out, yeah, we all know that's absolutely true, that there are people actually blowing people up, shooting people, or whatever, beating them to death, because they do make everybody so mad. So, I mean, just because I pointed that out, because I had a segment I was working on about how that is going on, I get thrown in jail for it. Now, fortunately, I didn't really, I mean, like I said, I'm doing this for free, so it didn't like ruin my job. It didn't make it so I couldn't get hired anywhere, because I hire myself. I do this myself. So, you know, I mean, I choose to do this because it is important. It is important that Americans understand that their economy, not to mention their politics, not to mention their legal system, has been subverted and taken away from them, and that they need to get together and take it back and turn it back into what it should be. I mean, I've spent my whole life listening to people tell me, well, shut up. Don't talk about what should be. Don't talk about what fair is. Don't talk about what fair is, because it's not fair, and we're not going to let you make it fair. We're not going to let you instigate the people to be, you know, they'll throw you in jail for that, for instigating the people to stand up. I mean, they know that it's that simple. All that has to happen is for people to listen to me and people like me and understand what we're saying, and they'll stand up on the days when we go and vote, and they'll vote for a progressive, because right now progressives are the only politicians in America that aren't bought. I'm not saying they can't be bought, they could possibly be, but they're the only ones right now who are not bought and are claiming that if you vote them in, they will go up against the system, and go up against the system in the ways I'm talking about, to try and provide the American people who pay for all this with transparency, so Americans can see that they're getting what they pay for, so they can see that their politicians are working to take back the government, the economy, law enforcement, the legal system, judges, hospital, essential goods and services when it comes to the economy. I don't think that we need to regulate building yachts and stuff like that. We need to regulate corn and bread and food and electricity and housing and all the things that people need that they're not getting through this capitalist system, right? We need to regulate the courts. The courts are a joke in this country. They're just set up as like little kingdoms where white people punish everybody they don't like, people like me. They punish other white people. I mean, they spend all day punishing black people and brown people and yellow and red and whatever you want to call people who aren't white, minorities. But in the last 20 or 30 years, they've started punishing. They probably punished dissidents before that, people who stand up to them. But people like me, they're punishing me too now. And good. I want to suffer like the black and brown people do in this country, so that, number one, to show solidarity, and number two, to experience what they're experiencing. No wonder they're so fucking pissed off. It's so unfair. And unfairness creates stress and anger and despair, all those kind of things. So, I did this thing and I covered NASA, and apparently this is somebody else. But I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but I think that it ought to be regulated. I don't think people ought to be able to spend money. I know they'll just screw around with the money to the end till we finally take it away from them. But in the meantime, and by that I mean that if we go in and we try and tell them they can and can't do this or that, then they'll try and figure out, other ways around that. But it should be done anyway. I mean, that's how you catch a cockroach. Okay? So if it's running around on the floor on your carpet, and you take your hand and put it here and it can't go any farther, and then you put it here. So that's how you treat the establishment. Once we decide to go after them, you cut off their avenues of corruption. Really is what it is. It's just flat out corruption. They just consider it every day. This is just how they get up in the morning. Their corruption, their privilege, their unfairness, taking advantage through their system, to them is just normal. They call it legal. They've made it legal, so they call it legal. They say what they're doing is that's where the shit hits the fan, right? They say that what they're doing is fair. It's fair to them. It's more than fair to them. It's how they get their money for raising their kids and having what they have. And they think that's, we're the ones who made it, so it's fair that we have it and get it. They're obviously going to make anything legal that protects their wealth. And I guess the real problem is that not only does it protect their wealth, but it protects the poverty that supports that wealth. Because they see poverty as a way of keeping control over people. If you can keep them stupid and poor, there's no way they're going to ever fight you. I mean, they can't fight you in the courts. They don't have the money to buy their way out of it. Let's just look at this again. So, I mean, basically what I'm talking about is they created a box. It's not like you can, or that you would want to go to like the woods somewhere, or somewhere. I mean, if there's even a place in this box where you could get away and start on your own, you know, it's not like that's an ideal situation, right? I mean, going out in the woods and fighting with bears, and I don't think there's very many bears left, but with nature, you know, I mean, don't we have a right to enjoy our own progress as a species, as the human race? Don't we? I mean, the world has been evolving. There's no doubt about that. And human beings have developed ways so that they don't have to start from scratch, right? And at this point, and isn't it cruel to say to a human being, well, you follow my rules and you be poor, or we won't let you in the system at all. You know what I mean? Or we'll put you in a place in our box. The system is our box, and the nation is our box. I mean, we are at this point in this evolution I'm talking about, we are intrinsically connected to our nation. That's why it's so obnoxious for somebody in our nation to say, well, go join another nation. You know, this is our nation. We're the ones we're part of it, you know, and you're telling us, well, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. Fucking assholes say that shit to people. Used to have people say that to me all the time when I said I like the communist system. The communist system is an economic system. It's not a political system. All the politics you hear about are nonsense. You know, they're fascists and shit like that the capitalists point to and say, see what happens when you advocate a communist system. The communist system is just an economic system where instead of letting the rich people run wild and run everything, you have a planned economy where you plan things and you don't have markets. You just find out what the people need and you produce it as best you can, right? Anyway, so it's really unfair to tell people in this box, you know, I mean, it's a form of tyranny, the way they're lording over everybody and telling them, you know, I don't even see how you could get out of the box. That's a whole nother segment, I guess. So what I'm saying is, in this box, you know, these people are privileged. I'm not going to say that every single one of them it's marked for fame and fortune or anything like that, but that's the way it works out, right? As long as you don't rock the boat.
about that. There was a beautiful picture that came out with one of
Gee, a beautiful white girl, is that what you mean?
the scientists with her arms around our storage units. That made it really clear that we were involved.
And currently,
That scientist says the small number of telescopes posed a challenge to her and her colleagues.
that means there's gaps of missing information. And so we had to come up with techniques to intelligently fill in those gaps.
Astronomers say the
Intelligently fill in those gaps? Sounds to me like she's saying that they made it up. Yeah, that's definitely what she's saying. And that's definitely what all this science is about. It's about people getting their money, you know, so that we can have a picture of a donut on a table.
circular shadow of the black hole, visible for the first time, confirms Albert Einstein's now century-old general theory of relativity.
We now know clearly that black holes drive large-scale structure in the universe. And we now have an entirely new way of studying general relativity in black holes that we never had before. And as with all great discoveries, this is just the beginning.
A graphic throw Einstein in our face because we have been propagandized all our lives into believing that Einstein knew something that we all don't. You know, this... What, you're telling me that we don't understand that light bends? It took Einstein to tell us that when you put a piece of glass up with a lot of curves, that it changes what you see on the other side. Changes the image. I mean, this is not brain surgery. It's just people looking at shit through radio telescopes. They're just analyzing the data, and I doubt seriously that they even have that much data. I think they're lying. I mean, what would be the point in gathering that much? And they don't explain it. They don't explain it. They explain it with cartoons. You know, they explain it with images of formulas.
Confirms Albert Einstein's now century-old general theory of
relativity. All that A, B, what is A, what is B, half of what is R relative to G, GT, what? C4? Isn't that an explosive? Guy's a terrorist. No, all I'm saying is that this is nonsense. This is shit thrown up in your face. Yeah, blown up in your face. It's propaganda. You know, an old guy with a nice looking face. Why is his face nice? Because we've been trained to believe that that's what a nice looking face looks like. What a highly intelligent... He didn't tell us anything. Of course everything's relative. You know that when you get up in the morning and you catch your sleeve on the door or something. You know, the hard door hurts your elbow when you hit it, because it's hard and relative to your skin, which has nerves in it and stuff. You know, relativity is just a basic concept. It's not the height of intelligence. But like I'm saying, man, what I see here,
we now know clearly.
It's all about making sure this guy gets money, and that he can claim, and that the system can claim that he deserves it, as opposed to somebody else. That's all it is. Bunch of fucking cartoons, man. Cartoons and white guys smiling because they've got lots of money, because they've found a way to make their masters happy, and by not rocking the boat, and make lots of neat videos and cartoons, and oh, look, they threw in an Asian guy.
And this is just one of those events.
And this is a photograph scientists will be talking about and trying to improve upon for years to come.
Why? What the fuck? You know, I bet you that, first of all, okay, here's the science. They couldn't have done this image unless they already knew where to look, right? So they already had pictures that they'd taken through radio telescopes that indicated that maybe light from the other side of it, because again we're looking at an image, was bent as it came around this massive magnetic field caused by some very dense particle, really is what it is. You know, if you were, well, I'm not going to get into the physics of it, but so they already knew where it was. You know, now they're just trying to improve on their animation of it. They know what it is. They know it's out there. They understand the physics of it, how density causes light to bend and all that kind of stuff. And I think the way that we know that there's black holes is mainly because shit hits them and explodes and produces large light. And it also produces a large radio image. So they haven't done anything, I don't think. I don't think they've even done anything. I don't think they've even improved on what they've got. I notice the image is flipped over here. In this image I do see there's a ring going around this way too. Look, I'm not saying that the science isn't important. I mean, it could be vastly important, but not for the reasons that they suggest. The reason it could be vastly important to understand black holes is eventually it might become a way for us to transport people around the universe. And I'm not suggesting you can fly into one and then fly back out on the other side of the universe. Nothing like that. But you know, there are other possibilities, like the gravity produced by these things. You could ride it, perhaps, or some idea like that. We won't know unless we don't understand it. So it is important to study it. What I'm saying is, all that's ruined by this white privilege thing, you know? And it's a box. You're in a box. They have the resources and the education and everything because that's what the box produces for them. It doesn't produce it for anybody else. So they can turn around and say, well, we're smarter than everybody else, so we're the ones who should get paid the big bucks, right? See how it works? I mean, the system feeds off itself, right? For white people, for privileged people, the ones who don't rock the boat. Okay. Have I beat this horse to death yet? I think I have. I think I've covered it really well. You know, there's a lot more to be said about the box, the system, about white privilege and stuff like that, and how they create a system that's so unfair, and they convince most people that it is fair and that to just accept it, and they're propagandized. But, you know, if you live in that system, you can't help but notice that it's not fair. And as soon as you say it's not fair, then you find out how unfair it really is, because boy, they just come right down your fucking throat, don't they? They're assholes, that's for sure, and that's really the simple way of defining the situation. Bunch of dicks, being dicks all the time. Yeah. Don't like being called dicks. You know, it's like Bill Merrill when he used to still be worth a shit. And he said there's two things that racists hate. And one is being called racist, and the other is black people. I mean, that just illustrated the point, right? They don't like being criticized. But it's not going to change the fact that they are what they do. That's a basic principle of the universe. You are what you do. Okay, this is Martin Drummond with Progressive News. I hope you enjoyed my segment.